Hello everybody, Raven Knight here. Welcome to another response video. Been a while since I did one of these, and it's not because I don't enjoy making them, but finding stuff worth responding to isn't always easy. I only respond to stuff that I think is really worthy of picking apart, and that I have enough understanding of that I can talk about it well. Today, we're looking at a video sent to me by my community, and after watching it, yeah, I can see why they want me to respond to it. The video is from the YouTube channel Screenwashed, a channel started in only just a little over a year ago with only 6 videos to their name and yet with over 12,000 subs already. An impressive feat. But is their content reflective of this? Well, the video today was made about 3 weeks ago, and it's called How Fathers Were Destroyed by the Most Popular Family Movie of All Time. Well, that's an interesting title, but to provide the spoiler for you, this video is about how the 1964 Disney classic Mary Poppins was secretly attempting to undermine traditional family values and fatherhood in the wake of the hippie movement and succeeded in turning our modern society against fathers and responsibility. Yeah, that's a take. So without further ado, well, maybe just one more ado, let's switch out my avatar since Hannah was kind enough to draw one for this video. There we go. I love it. It looks, I'm trying to think of the right word for that. Mary Poppins, what's the right word for this?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
That's the one. Thank you so much. You're the best. You're the best. Can we get a round of applause for Mary Poppins? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mary Poppins. We love you. Anyway, now, let's take a spoonful of sugar and help this medicine go down.
People often think of the 1960s as the Walt Disney Company's family-friendly golden age. Those films are viewed as a representation of what entertainment could be like when it's not pushing an agenda or trying to trick the audience into embracing some sort of fringe belief. Anyone who thinks that couldn't be more wrong. The 1960s were ground zero for a massive cultural shift happening in the United States, and ideas like the hippie movement and the feminist movement, while not popular in the mainstream at the time, were already quietly being embraced by the artists and creatives making Disney's films.
Okay, so a lot to unpack here starting off. While it's true that the hippie movement did start to take off in the 60s, it was more the mid to late 60s, early 70s that it really got started. Mary Poppins came out in 1964, so this would, at the very most, be at the very beginning of the hippie movement that it was released. And further, the hippie New Age movement was more popular with the teenage and young crowd than it would probably be with many Walt Disney writers and executives, so I highly doubt you would see a lot of that influence in this era of Disney's history. But leaving that aside, you just said yourself it wasn't popular in the mainstream. While many might argue with me on this, it's a simple fact: culture is upstream from media. When media tries to go upstream of culture, it often fails. The reason for this is that the shows, cartoons, and media we produce will often reflect the standards, wants, and desires of the culture of today. If something is not popular in the mainstream or culture, then there's no benefit for it to be sensationalized in the media, as it won't be popular or supported. And Mary Poppins is insanely popular. So, already you're off to a pretty weak start, but perhaps we'll get a decent point in later, maybe?
So, when Walt Disney put together a team to make Mary Poppins in 1963, whether or not he knew it, his family-friendly movie about a magical nanny became one of the earliest films to screenwash resistant audiences in favor of a rising wave of counterculture beliefs. This is the story of how Mary Poppins screenwashed American children into joining an ideology their parents had already rejected, and in the process created the disasters of the modern world.
Alright, pause here. I want to point out something you just said. Quote, whether Walt Disney intended for it or not. Okay, I find this statement incredibly interesting for various reasons. Later in this video, you're going to claim that Mary Poppins uses argument fallacies and underhanded tactics, such as poisoning the well and emotional misdirection. But this itself, what you've done, is a bit of manipulation on your own. Your goal with this video is to claim that Disney was inspired or encouraged by the New Age movement of the 60s to create Mary Poppins and use it to push a narrative and agenda to undermine family values and fatherhood. However, with this statement, you are simultaneously trying to claim he did something malevolent, while at the same time deflecting any criticism like a shield by half-heartedly implying, well, he might not have intended it this way. And yet, your opening claim that Disney's company was aware of and inspired by the movement, what this is essentially a contradictory criticism. Disney is maliciously trying to push an agenda onto you and is leading the problems of the modern world. But he may not have meant to do it. I'm sorry, which is it? Was Disney secretly undermining our values, or was this unintentional? You will accuse this movie of poisoning the well, but you don't unintentionally poison a well. You know what? Hold on. Time. I'm getting ahead of myself. The point I'm making here is that right off the bat, you're accusing Mary Poppins and its creators of attempting a malicious agenda push in the 60s, but are not confident enough to even stand by that criticism wholeheartedly. So, moving on.
Mary Poppins was adapted from a book by author P.L. Travers. If you've read the Travers books, you probably noticed that they're almost nothing like the iconic Disney movie. Travers' story is strange, strict, and occasionally uncomfortable. Disney's version rewrites it into something softer, shinier, and far more ideologically driven.
Okay, sorry to pause here so soon, but this is a great example of what I was just talking about earlier. You say Disney changed it to something ideologically driven. Okay, how can Disney do this if it wasn't intentional? I know I'm really harping on this one point, but it all stems to a specific point. You want to claim Mary Poppins destroyed fathers. In fact, the thumbnail of your video has the giant word evil pasted on it, and yet you yourself said Walt Disney might not have intended it. So pick a side, dude. Is Disney the face of evil in making Mary Poppins, or was this an unintentional misstep? Actually, we might need to see if your claims even have ground to stand on. Was there anything evil here at all? Is the father really destroyed by Mary Poppins? Let's find out. Let's go.
P.L. Travers hated everything about Disney's movie, and strongly objected to all of it, loudly claiming that it totally subverted and misrepresented the values she was trying to teach kids in her books.
Now, this isn't quite true. It is true that P.L. Travers did not like the Disney movie. She was outspoken about not liking it, and even added a clause in her will that said they could never adapt one of her books again. She was very unhappy with it, but it's not because of the themes. P.L. Travers was upset about essentially the lighthearted, sugary, sweet nature of the movie. She didn't like how the movie was so flashy, animated, and musical. She hated the musical pieces. She hated the dance scenes, particularly the scene with Bert and the penguins. She hated the words that were made up spontaneously, like rhyming constable with responsible. She hated the animation. She hated adding cartoon characters. She hated that Mary herself was incredibly jovial and sweet rather than strict and authoritative, although I'd argue she had her strict moments. But the themes and lessons she pushed in her books, well, they were very much in the movie. In fact, I read a fantastic blog post here with references and sources that lays out beautifully the many parallels and themes and lessons between Travers' books and the movie. Link will be in the description. I highly recommend reading it. In fact, you say that she intended to teach her themes to children, but Travers went on record saying she didn't specifically intend to target children with her books, and was actually upset that publishing companies targeted the books at children. That might be part of the reason why she had her issues with Disney. Not because he didn't understand the themes of the books, but because the books had been marketed at children. Disney's daughter loved the books and wanted to see a movie made about Mary Poppins, and thus Disney made a movie meant for children that carried those themes. The more you know, right? But I can see why you made this criticism, because you want to make it seem that Travers was teaching family values to children, and the Disney movie is trying to do the exact opposite. But let's all get Travers' criticisms right, shall we?
The changes start with Mary Poppins herself, who in the books is not a fun, whimsical character who lives her life indulging the fantasies of children. Travers' version of the character is stern, impatient, and distant. She's not very nice most of the time, and she's incredibly strict.
Well begun is half done. There you go.
She never nurtures, she only corrects. Her goal is to help the children in her care become better adults.
Spit spot.
The movie version takes the opposite approach. She puts on a stern front, but ultimately, Mary Poppins is indulgent and encouraging of whimsy and fantasy. She looks down on practicality and uses shortcuts like magic to help the children avoid doing actual work.
There you go.
The movie itself sneers at anything that isn't purely fun, and goes out of its way to push the idea to viewers that a child's life should be little more than dancing on the ceiling.
Well, sir, then it may surprise you to know that in the Mary Poppins books there was magic and whimsy. Yes, Mary Poppins did use magic in the books, and there were supernatural, mythical, fun occurrences. She always denied it when it happened, but then again, Mary Poppins did in the movie as well. In the books, she takes the kids on magical adventures, including tea parties on the ceiling, a journey around the world, and other whimsical things. In fact, in one scene, the children go to the zoo, and at the zoo, there are humans in the cages and animals walking around observing them. There is whimsy and fun to be had in these books, which is what drew children to them. Now, it is very true that Mary in the books was strict, stern, and believed in discipline. But she wasn't distant. In fact, the reason the kids loved her was because she was there, unlike the parents of the children. She didn't neglect them. The movie does not sneer at everything unfun. I'm actually astounded you said that, as it comes off as very condescending, dismissive, and in no way accurate. As a matter of fact, Mary, in both the book and movie, comes off as a strong balance between joviality and order. While everyone else is laughing madly on the ceiling, Mary remains composed and controlled.
It's the most disgraceful sight I've ever seen. Oh, my name isn't Mary Poppins. Next thing, I suppose you'll be wanting me to pour out. Oh, well, if I must, I must. If you'll just stop behaving like a pack of laughing hyenas.
While everyone else is focused on the horse race, she seems calm and collected.
Oh, riders, would you be so kind as to let me pass?
Certainly, Mama.
Thank you.
Not at all, Mama.
Mary Poppins is the embodiment of having fun while maintaining decorum. But more on this point later.
That approach makes the movie's villain Mr. Banks.
Play games, sing songs, give treats. Ridiculous?
In the books, he's not the villain. He's a normal father, and treated as a valued member of the household and leader of the family.
Actually, no. Mr. Banks in the books was not much different from the one in the movie. He's largely absent, rarely around for his children, and though he loves them, he is often gruff or brash in his treatment of them. In fact, here's the real kicker. He's rarely seen in the books, which highlights his absence more so than the movie. In the movie, he's more present, and the film focuses far more on his character arc and change. Whereas in the book, there's no change really shown at all. In fact, what's interesting is, in the movie, they pay special emphasis to what exactly is wrong with Mr. Banks. Whereas in the book, it's just clear he's neglectful and not always there for them. And there was no change. In the books, there is no obvious change that Mr. Banks ever altered. So, let's keep things honest.
In the movie, Mr. Banks is treated as a monster.
I do expect a certain decorum.
And the film ends by literally telling him to go fly a kite. But on paper, there's nothing villainous about what Mr. Banks is doing. He occasionally suggests that his wife should take her family responsibilities more seriously.
Winifred, where are the children?
I don't know, George.
You don't know?
He wants his kids to be well-mannered and respectful.
Tradition, discipline, and rules must be the tools.
He wants to take his son to work and teach him how to get a job.
Okay, stop, just stop. Okay, I can only take so much of this. Let's break down all the problems here. First, you say he occasionally suggests his wife should take her family responsibilities more seriously. But think about how he walked home earlier. Both he and his wife come home from work at the beginning of the film, happy, jovial, and singing about how self-obsessed they were with their priorities. Mrs. Banks comes home first and sings a whole song about women's suffrage and how important her work is, ignoring the nanny's attempts to tell her that the children had gone missing.
What is it, Katie Nana?
Mrs. Banks, I have something to say to you.
Where are the children?
The children, madam, to be precise, are not here. They've disappeared again.
And Mr. Banks did the exact same thing. Came in, began singing a song about how good his life is and how he's working at the bank and how great it is and how very ordered and refined he is, how much he cares about his family, how well off they are, how he wants for nothing. Through the whole thing, ignoring all of his wife's attempts to tell him the children were missing and the nanny just quit.
Assistant is the life I lead.
George, they're missing.
Splendid. It's grand to be an Englishman in 1910.
He is so neglectful and out of touch with his family, he doesn't even have the patience or awareness to recognize a problem until he himself decides it's worth noticing. Now, that last bit you said, he wants to take his son to work and help him get a job. Couple things. No, he didn't. In fact, it was Mary Poppins who put the idea in his head to do it. Play the clip.
Tomorrow, just as you suggest, pressed and dressed, Jane and Michael will be at your side.
Splendid. You've hit the nail right on the... At my side, where are we going?
To the bank, of course, exactly as you proposed.
He didn't even consider this idea until Mary suggested it to him and used a little bit of, psychological suggestion to make him realize he may want to do that. Second, he wasn't trying to get him a job. He wanted Michael to invest his money in the bank because, to Mr. Banks, the bank is all he cares about. Money is all he cares about. It's his top priority. Because he thinks the bank is what fulfills him. He thinks it's what will fulfill Michael as well. He couldn't care less about what Michael wants, but only what he thinks Michael should want, and it will always be what Mr. Banks wants. Thirdly, while it's never stated Michael's age in the movie or books, the actor playing him is about 8 years old in the movie, so let's assume Michael is 8. Is that really the right age to be preparing a child for the working world? No, I didn't think so.
He tries to help his kids learn the value of money and wants them to open a savings account of their own. These things are all treated by the movie as pure villainy.
Welcome to our joyful family of investors.
Give it back! Give me back the money!
And it's Mary Poppins' job to teach the family how to subvert the practical advice of Mr. Banks.
Okay, you need to rewatch the scene at the bank more closely. Yes, Mr. Banks wants to teach Michael about the value of money and investing it, but note what happens. The owner of the bank reaches in and snatches the tuppence from Michael's hand, saying it's for investment, and Michael freaks. The bank was portrayed as money-hungry and detached, just like Mr. Banks. It is not Mr. Banks who is a villain. In fact, there really isn't a villain in the movie. The movie is about the disconnect between the world of children and the world of adults. Mary Poppins is the balance. She encourages the children to be kids, have fun and have imagination, but she still expects decorum, respect, and sensibility. Mr. Banks has messed up his priorities. I could go further, but you know what? Let's just let the guy talk. I need to stop pausing every 5 seconds. Let me actually let him get out some stuff, okay? I'm gonna shut up. Go. You have the floor, sir. Go ahead.
The film makes something that ridiculous work for the audience by using a well-known propaganda technique called poisoning the well. Poisoning the well is what happens when an idea is discredited by attacking the source of the idea rather than the idea itself. So if you have someone evil say something reasonable, and then make everyone act like those ideas are as evil as the person saying them, then people will associate those ideas with evil. It doesn't matter how reasonable or illogical those ideas might be. The famous feed the birds moment in Mary Poppins is the biggest, most manipulative, emotional knife twist. A kindly old woman sells breadcrumbs. The child wants to help her.
Please, may we feed the bird?
The father suggests the money could be saved instead.
When we get to the bank, I shall show you what may be done with your tuppence.
The film frames this as a moral failure. The camera lingers, the music swells, the audience is trained to feel that prudence is cruelty.
They are smiling each time someone shows that he cares.
The real trick here is that the movie isn't actually arguing against greed. It's arguing against long-term thinking.
Okay, stop. Okay. I let you play out there. I let you talk. I let you speak. So now let me talk about how woefully silly everything you just said was. Okay, starting off. Let's start with that poisoning the well argument. I told you we'd get there, and here it is. The argument being made is that the film is portraying Mr. Banks as a villain, so it doesn't matter what he says, even if it's reasonable, because he's the villain, and all he says must be evil. That's poisoning the well. Well, yeah, that only works if Mr. Banks is a villain. Is he? Is he? As we've proven, he is not. Let's define a villain for a second. When you write stories, the antagonist of the story is the one who's constantly against the protagonist. The villain actually wants to usually harm the protagonist, or harm what the protagonist cares about, or harm the world around the protagonist. Mr. Banks wants none of this. He doesn't want to harm his family. He doesn't want to harm Mary Poppins. He doesn't even really try to stop Mary Poppins at any point in the story. He puts his trust in Mary Poppins to take care of the children, while he steps away from the family, which is precisely the problem. Mr. Banks has messed up priorities. He's misguided. He's not a villain. Next, you proceed to criticize the bird woman scene. Here's a fun fact. Remember how you said that Clearly, Mary Poppins, the movie, missed everything Travers was trying to do. Did you know that the Bird Woman is mentioned in the Mary Poppins books? It's in a chapter called The Bird Woman. Now, in that chapter, there's no song, there's no talking, but instead Mary takes the children to see her, and she doesn't say a word. See, the moment of meeting the kind old woman and the birds is meant to be a poignant and powerful lesson about charity, compassion, kindness, empathy, love for your fellow man. Walt Disney took that moment and sensationalized it with the best song in the movie. He even said that this song was the linchpin, the anchor of the whole movie. It is not saying prudence is cruelty, especially when you understand the context of it. Think about why we have the Bird Woman. Michael wants to use his tuppence to feed the birds, showing kindness to the old woman and the birds. Now keep in mind, his goal when leaving home was not to feed the birds. He was leaving with his father to go to the bank because they wanted to see where their father worked. On the way, Michael stops, sees the woman, and says, "I have tuppence, I want to feed the birds." Michael's father stops him and says no.
Well, of course she's saying it. What else would she be saying?
Please, may we feed the birds?
Whatever for?
I have tuppence from my money box. Just this once, please.
Waste your money on a lot of ragamuffin birds? Certainly not.
But Mary Poppins...
I am not interested in what Mary Poppins says, nor do I wish to keep hearing her name for the remainder of the day. Now come along.
Now keep in mind, Michael wants to partake in an act of generosity and charity, a simple but meaningful act. Meanwhile, Mr. Banks, whose whole worldview revolves around money and the acquisition of it, doesn't appreciate this. He sees the woman as nothing more than a distraction, something he passes by every day and doesn't even notice. Mary Poppins even points this out before this happens by saying there are some people in this world who, by no fault of their own, she doesn't insult him, says they just don't see the world around them the way they should.
Well, most things he can. Sometimes a person we love, through no fault of his own, can't see past the end of his nose.
Past the end of his nose?
Yes, sometimes a little thing can be quite important.
He does not care about this woman. He just sees, "Oh, Michael, you have money? Well, she's not worth spending anything on. Instead, you need to spend money how I want you to."
But it's my tuppence.
Michael, I will not permit you to throw your money away. When we get to the bank, I shall show you what may be done with your tuppence, and I think you'll find it extremely interesting.
Invest in a bank account. My bank, where money should go. Put money into the bank, Michael, because that's what I do. In fact, Mary Poppins points this out too. He wants his children to be like him. He doesn't want them to be people. He just wants many clones of him.
Despite their youth, they must learn
About the life you lead.
Exactly.
So cut to much later in the movie when Mr. Banks is making his solemn walk to the bank to lose his job. Mr. Bank is making his walk and he passes where the woman was to see she's gone. And for the first time, he stops and notices she's gone. The movie doesn't have to tell you what happened to her, and it doesn't have to have any silly dialogue here. It lets you take in the scene and draw your own conclusions. And those conclusions are dark. It reminds us how fleeting life is, how we may only have a short time to show kindness and mercy to others, and we should use it wisely. That sometimes the thing that we always just kind of took for granted and brushed off may be something we should have given more time and thought to. You know, it sounds very similar to A Christmas Carol with Ebenezer Scrooge. Sometimes a small act of charity, compassion, and kindness can make all the difference for other people. That was the message there, and it was thought and it was brought out in both the book and the movie. It fascinates me that you don't recognize this and that you're criticizing this scene. But since I suspect this video is AI generated, I'm not surprised the machine wouldn't understand compassion.
It reframes responsibility as emotional coldness.
I do expect a certain decorum.
It quietly tells children, and the parents watching with them, that planning ahead is somehow less virtuous than impulsive generosity.
Feed the birds. Tuppence a bag.
This was also one of the core beliefs of the early 1960s counterculture movement.
Well, of course she's saying it. What else would she be saying?
Further proof that this is AI generated. What does this clip have to do with the prior statement? It's like the AI is trying to find clips to slip in at certain points it thinks will be appropriate, and then it fails. This is very poorly edited. I'm starting to think of a lot of Toons videos now.
Long-term planning was framed by hippies as submission to the system. That's not in a movie like Mary Poppins by accident. That's intentional conditioning. Mr. Banks isn't wrong. He's right. Saving money is good advice. Teaching a child that money has future value is one of the most important lessons any parent can give. But Mary Poppins turns that into a character flaw because the story has a set of subversive ideas it's delivering.
It's that Poppins woman!
That's the only reason Mr. Banks is in the movie. He screenwashes the audience against the basic, common-sense family values that were popular at the time. Values which people couldn't be convinced to abandon through honest debate.
False on every metric level. Investing money in the bank isn't bad advice, but Mary Poppins never said it was bad advice. She never said, don't invest your money in banks, kids. Spend all your money how you see fit. Throw your money away needlessly. The character flaw of Mr. Banks is not that he wants to invest money, but that he only cares about money in the bank while not caring enough about his children. Does Mr. Banks ever consider what the children want? Tell you what, name a scene where he does what the children want, where he really listens to them, plays with them, laughs with them, listens to their stories or their wants. At the very beginning of the movie, when the kids go missing, it's because their kite got away from them and they ran off to chase it. When they come back, Michael explains, it wasn't a well-made kite. Maybe you could help us build it. And he gets brushed off by Mr. Banks. He does not care about his kids, and that's the issue. Mr. Banks isn't in the movie to represent the family values we need removed or that are outdated. He exists to show the evils of letting your priorities go awry. Mr. Banks lost sight of what's most important. He forgot what matters the most. Consider the phrase you use, sir. Family values. What does that mean? The family must have value. To Mr. Banks, a family was just what any successful man should have. It's an aspect of his status, not anything more. In his opening song, he straight up says his family is representative of his status as a gentleman of London.
I'm the lord of my castle, the sovereign, the liege. I treat my subjects, servants, children, wife, with a firm but gentle hand.
Mr. Banks has to remember, therefore, that it's his family that needs to be valued. That's what family values means. Moving on.
In contrast to Mr. Banks, Mrs. Banks is functionally absent. She leaves the children daily to attend political causes, marches, and meetings.
We're all going to Downing Street to throw things at the Prime Minister.
The film plays this as quirky and admirable. Her absence is never framed as neglect. It's always framed as liberation. She's doing important work after all, work that just happens to require abandoning her kids entirely to a stranger with supernatural powers.
No, it's really not. On the topic of Mrs. Banks, she's a satirical character. She's kind of a joke. See, the causes she's always going on fighting for are suffrage meetings and the like, for women's rights. And then she comes home and talks often about the important causes she's championing, even though she doesn't fully understand them. The rallies she marches with don't get anything done, and when she comes home, she is completely docile and submissive to her husband, in contrast to the very independence she claims to be fighting for.
Kate and Anna, you're not leaving. What will Mr. Banks say? He's going to be cross enough as it is to come home and find the children missing. Ellen, put these things away. You know how the cause infuriates Mr. Banks.
Yes?
I'd love to stay, but I have to dress for my rally in Hampstead.
Winifred, it is my wish that you be present.
Oh, yes, George, of course.
Mary Poppins?
Yeah, there are straight up funny scenes in the movie where she claims, I'm off to go to a rally. Her husband tells her to sit down. She doesn't even argue. She just sits down. At the end of the movie, she herself gives her suffrage ribbon to the children as the tail for their kite, showing that she has let it go in favor of her family.
A proper kite needs a proper tail, don't you think?
Mrs. Banks, too, learns to prioritize her children above her pointless causes. She is not hailed as right. She is not presented as smart or correct. Rather, she is portrayed as ditzy, airheaded, something of a joke. Ironically, despite you saying this movie was pushing the new age and feminist agendas of the time, this movie seems to make them more into a joke than anything serious. And you say that she's doing important work that requires her to abandon her children to a, quote, Stranger with supernatural powers. Well, firstly, Mary Poppins is their employee. She showed up to a job interview and took the job. It's not that she just walked in and said, "Where are the kids? I'm watching them now." No, she was hired to watch the children. That's her job, moron. She's a nanny. It's what they do. And then the supernatural powers bit, Mrs. Banks had no idea that Mary had them. So, yeah, I feel like you're being disingenuous and, you know what, frankly stupid here.
The movie never asks the obvious question,
2, 1, fire!
why is it okay for the mother to be gone doing things which contribute nothing to the family, but monstrous for the father to be busy making money to support them?
Madam, that is entirely beside the point.
That asymmetry is intentional. The film wants you angry at the man who pays the bills and indifferent to the woman who doesn't come home. Responsibility is recoded by Mary Poppins as oppression. Absence is recoded as self-actualization.
False again, good sir. Mrs. Banks is also in the wrong, and by the end of the movie, she too has had to abandon her prior thinking. But the difference is that her behavior is not the center point of the story. Mr. Banks is the center point because he is the head of the family, and at the end of the day, Mrs. Banks falls in line with him. In fact, Mrs. Banks isn't as opposed to Mary Poppins as Mr. Banks is, but she doesn't challenge him on anything. Again, highlighting the irony of her suffrage stance being meaningless. Both parents are absent and both parents are neglectful. Therefore, both are in the wrong. The film shows this. If you'd paid attention, you'd know.
And then Mary Poppins arrives. She doesn't replace the parents. She overwrites them. She's not just a nanny. She's a psychological counterweight.
Oh, please, Mary Poppins.
Please? Oh, well, if we must, we must.
She rewards emotional indulgence. She ridicules discipline. She makes authority figures look foolish. She trains the children to associate joy with rule-breaking and resentment with structure.
Okay, wow, all right. I'm not sure if this movie was made by I'm not sure if this video was made by artificial intelligence or natural stupidity. Either way, I have so much wrong to take with this last series of slanderous claims. So, let's break them all down. Number 1.
She rewards emotional indulgence. She ridicules discipline.
Is that why she demands the children take their medicine? Is that why she asks the students to tidy their room? Is that why she teaches the students how to march properly and straight? Is that why she corrects them frequently on their behavior or attitudes?
Close your mouth, please, Michael. We are not a codfish. Otherwise entitled, Let's Tidy Up the Nursery.
Hurry up, boy. Hurry up.
Not so fast, please. Michael?
Now, really, Bert, you're as bad as the children.
Do we have to, Mary Poppins?
People who get their feet wet must learn to take their medicine. Think for a nice Dover sole and a pint of prawns. Michael, stop stravaging along behind.
She makes authority figures look foolish.
How and when, sir? When does she insult Mr. Banks or Mrs. Banks or anyone else? How does she make them look like fools? Reveal that to me, sir.
She trains the children to associate joy with rule-breaking and resentment with structure.
Riddle me this, Batman, you blithering imbecile. What rule does Mary Poppins break? And how does she say the kids should enjoy it? What rule? What law? What principle does she have them separate from? How does she say resentment of their parents is a good thing? You know, as a matter of fact, Mary Poppins, step aside for just a second. Let's bring in the character you're not talking about, Bert. As a matter of fact, Bert himself in the movie has 2 fantastic scenes where he helps the children and Mr. Banks understand what the other is going through and how they shouldn't resent each other for trying so hard to take care of each other.
Father's not in trouble. We are.
Oh, sure about that, are you? Look at it this way. You've got your mother to look after you, and Mary Poppins, and Constable Jones, and me. Who looks after your father? Tell me that. When something terrible happens, what does he do? Fends for himself, he does. Who does he tell about it? No one. Don't blab his troubles at home. He just pushes on at his job, uncomplaining and alone and silent. I only observe that a father can always do with a bit of help. When your little tykes are crying, you haven't time to dry their tears. And see them grateful little faces smiling up at you. And all too soon they've up and grown,
and then they've flown, and it's too late for you to give.
Yeah, again, this movie was trying to teach us to hate authority and to hate rules and to not appreciate the working man or appreciate each other. You're right. Got it.
This is classic emotional reframing. Emotional reframing is a persuasion technique where a person, story, or message changes how you feel about an idea without changing the facts of the idea itself. Mary Poppins doesn't argue with Mr. Banks. She outshines him. She doesn't prove him wrong. She makes him look irrelevant. That's how propaganda works. You don't refute the opposing idea. You make it feel old, uncool, and joyless.
I do expect a certain decorum.
Hey guys, have you noticed this? I may be the only one who noticed this. Have you noticed that this little clip where Mr. Banks stands up and goes, "I do expect a certain decorum"? Have you noticed he's used that 3 times in this video? 3 times? Not only does this tell me AI made this video, as it just keeps shoving clips in at key points that it thinks are helpful when really they aren't, but it also shows general laziness that you can only run to this clip of him shouting when you can't show a single scene of Mary Poppins outshining Mr. Banks, of Mr. Banks being shown as cruel or wicked, of Mary Poppins contradicting anything Mr. Banks has ever said. You could prove your case quite beautifully by using one scene of Mary Poppins chastising Mr. Banks, telling the kids not to listen to their father, saying that their father is an old fuddy-duddy. But, you know, I recall this scene where she straight up agrees with everything he says.
Tradition, discipline, and rules must be the tools. Without them, disorder, chaos, moral disintegration. In short, you have a ghastly mess.
I quite agree.
Yeah, Mr. Banks is saying how he wants the children to be raised with discipline and rules and order, and she agrees with him. But she forces him to take it to that next level by insinuating that he wants the children to be like him, and then encourages him to take the children to the bank with him so they can see the world he lives in. Let's take a look.
They've got to learn the honest truth. Despite their youth, they must learn
About the life you lead.
Exactly.
There it is. See, that's how you use clips. You use them to show evidence, to show receipts, to prove a point. You use them because I guess you need space to fill. Do you know how to edit, sir?
Even the bank itself is depicted as a literal monster. Columns like teeth, employees like drones. It's not a place where stability is created, it's a villain's lair. Never mind that the bank represents the very system keeping the household afloat. The audience is trained to cheer when it collapses into chaos. By the time the movie ends, Mr. Banks has been fixed. And how was he fixed? Not by being validated, not by being appreciated, but by being transformed into a whimsical, kite-flying man who abandons seriousness altogether.
Mr. Banks was not fixed by being an irresponsible goofball. Mr. Banks, from the beginning of the movie on, was neglectful and unfeeling towards his children. We see at the beginning of the movie that Michael and Jane lost their kite and a policeman had to help them get it back. Michael explains it wasn't well made and asks if their father could help build one with him. Instead of talking to his children about it or offering to do it another day, he tells the maidservants to just take the kids up to their room while he goes to write an ad in the paper for a new nanny to watch the kids because he just can't be bothered. If you think there isn't a problem there, well, you're a cold, unfeeling machine, aren't you? By the way, you complain that Mr. Banks isn't appreciated. I already mentioned it, but there are 2 scenes you obviously aren't aware of. One, we already mentioned, is the one where Bert talks to the kids about their father. The other is where Michael gives his father the tuppence out of concern for him.
Father, we're sorry about the tuppence. We didn't know it would cause you so much trouble.
Here, Father, you can have the tuppence.
Did you miss these scenes where it was clear that they appreciated and cared about their father? They clearly loved him and cared about him, and it was then he realized how little he'd cared for them.
Oh, let's go fly a kite.
That's the movie's final trick. The father must become a child to be redeemed. Mr. Banks doesn't get credit for being right. He gets rewarded for giving up. His arc isn't growth, it's surrender. The movie's message is clear. Responsibility must yield to sentiment, or it deserves to be mocked into extinction.
I'm tired of repeating myself, and this video is getting way longer than it needs to be. Go watch the last several minutes of this response, and you'll hear me say the same thing. This is not the message of the movie. This is not the theme. Responsibility and hard work is not being mocked or ridiculed, but it is child neglect that is being mocked and ridiculed and being held under a magnifying glass. Move on. Move on. Move on.
Mary Poppins teaches children that adults who plan are villains, that mothers don't need to be present.
I must hurry. Our gallant ladies in prison are waiting for me to lead them in song.
And that money is something you feel about.
Give it back! Give me back the money!
Not something you manage. It wraps that lesson in warmth, then dares you to question it without looking like the bad guy yourself. That's what being brainwashed looks like. That's what propaganda looks like. You walk in thinking you're watching a harmless musical. You walk out believing the most responsible person in the room was the problem all along. Enjoy your Arrested Development, kids. You've been screenwashed.
Yeah, can you hopefully... I hope you can see now why this video is complete and utter garbage. I get the same feeling from this video as I did from the Toon videos I did. It feels soulless. You know, what this honestly feels like is that someone said, hey, media controversy sells. ChatGPT, what's a very popular and wholesome movie that I could draw controversy from? The answer was Mary Poppins, and then the follow-up, all right, write me a script on how Mary Poppins is secretly about breaking of traditional family values, please. The creator doesn't seem to have any firm understanding of the movie, its intended themes, its messages, or the characters. You notice Bert is almost never mentioned, despite him being a very crucial character. It makes brash and critical assumptions about Mary Poppins and her intentions without citing a single moment or piece of evidence to support it, and it kind of blindly repeats its same points over and over and over. This was... Gosh, I was going to say dumb, but that word just doesn't fit. You know, Mary Poppins, you helped me earlier. What should I call this one? What word works here?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
No, I don't like that one. What's another one?
You know, you can say it backwards, which is docious ali expiastic fragicalirufus.
Nah, that's going a bit too far, I think. Anyway, you know what? I'll figure it out later. We'll talk later, Mary Poppins. Just hang back. We'll talk later. All right, I'm off to my jolly holiday to feed the birds. Later, everybody. I'll see you in my next video. Take care.